This isn't over. I know what you've done.
The truth always surfaces.
The double doors of the 50th floor boardroom exploded open with a soft, lethal whoosh. A woman stepped through, raven hair in a razor-sharp chignon, cream silk blend suit tailored like armor, emerald eyes locked forward like guided missiles. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She simply claimed the room. Alexander Harrington, 32, billionaire founder of Apex Industries. The man who never blinked first, froze mid-sentence. His coffee cup hovered an inch from his lips. The merger presentation on the massive screen behind him suddenly felt irrelevant. Because the new CEO of his fiercest rival, Nexus, the woman who had vanished from his life 3 years earlier without a trace, was standing 10 feet away. Elena Voss. Not the soft, hopeful version he'd once woken up next to. This Elena was forged steel wrapped in elegance. Calm, untouchable, radiating the kind of quiet power that made entire rooms lean in. She took her seat at the far end of the table, directly opposite him, as though the chair had always belonged to her. The executives from both sides exchanged glances. Whispers hissed like steam. "That's her," someone breathed. The one who turned Nexus from a garage startup into a billion-dollar threat in under 2 years. Alex's heart slammed against his ribs so hard he thought the sound might echo. 3 years ago he had signed her termination papers in front of the entire C-suite. Fake audits, forged transfers, irrefutable proof of betrayal handed to him by a trusted advisor. He hadn't asked a single question. He hadn't let her speak. He'd watched her walk out, green eyes wide with something between disbelief and heartbreak. Vanished, until now. She opened her slim leather portfolio without glancing at him once. "Ladies and gentlemen," her voice cut through the tension like crystal. Smooth and unhurried. "Thank you for waiting. Let's begin." No smile, no flicker of recognition. She treated him like a name on an org chart. Nothing more. The presentation rolled. Charts appeared. Projections that sliced through Apex's strategy like a scalpel. She spoke of market dominance. Of synergies that conveniently left Apex bleeding margin. Every sentence was precise, professional, devastating. Alex couldn't look away. He searched her face for anger, for pain, for anything that would prove the woman he'd destroyed still existed beneath the armor. Nothing. Only control. When she finished, the room was hers. Executives nodded. Pens scratched notes favoring her terms. The merger she'd come to discuss wasn't a negotiation anymore. It was a takeover in slow motion. As the meeting wrapped, handshakes circled the table. Elena rose, gathering her things with economical grace. Alex stood too fast, his chair scraped. "Ms. Voss," he said, voice rougher than he intended. She paused at the door, slowly turned. Those eyes finally met his. Cool, level, empty of warmth. "It's been a productive meeting, Mr. Harrington." Polite, distant, final. She walked out. The doors closed with the same soft whoosh. Silence swallowed the boardroom. Alex remained standing, staring at the empty doorway, pulse roaring in his ears. 3 years of buried regret cracked open in a single heartbeat. He hadn't just lost her. He'd created her, and now she was back. With an empire, with power, and with zero intention of letting him forget what he'd thrown away. Outside in the elevator, Elena pressed her palm flat against the cool metal wall. Her breathing stayed even, perfectly even. But her fingers trembled, just once, before she clenched them into a fist. She had rebuilt everything he'd taken from her. And today was only the opening move. Back in his office, Alex sank into his chair and stared at the city skyline that used to feel like his kingdom. Then he picked up his phone. "Get me everything on Elena Voss," he told his investigator. Voice low and dangerous. Everything. Now. The past had just walked back into his life wearing a crown. And it wasn't here to forgive. The next morning, Alex Harrington stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office. Coffee untouched, staring at the city that had once bent to his will. Sleep had eluded him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Elena, younger, softer, laughing at his terrible attempts at cooking during those stolen weekends in the Hamptons. Then the memory shifted. Her face in the boardroom yesterday. Calm as a frozen lake. Eyes sliding past him like he was furniture. He'd spent the night digging. His private investigator had delivered the first dossier before dawn. Elena Voss, 29 now, after vanishing 3 years ago. She'd resurfaced in Silicon Valley under a new identity. Elena Voss. Not Elena Moreau, the name he'd known her by. No social media, no interviews, no trail of bitterness, just results. She'd joined a failing mid-tier software firm called Nexus Solutions. Quietly bought controlling interest with what sources called angel funding from undisclosed sources. And in 18 brutal months turned it into a billion-dollar disruptor. Stock price tripled, patents filed, talent poached, some from Apex itself. Alex flipped through the photos. Elena at a tech conference. Mid-sentence on stage. Spotlight carving her features into something regal and remote. Another shot. Her stepping out of a black SUV at the Nexus headquarters in Palo Alto. No entourage. No drama. Just power. His phone buzzed. Marcus. She's requesting a private follow-up meeting. One-on-one. Today. My office. 2 o'clock. At precisely 2 p.m. The elevator chimed. Elena stepped out alone. Black dress. Perfect chignon. Slim leather portfolio. I assume you've reviewed our counterproposal, she said. Nexus is prepared to walk. Partner. Or compete. You've done well, Alex said. Thank you. Flat. Professional. 3 years. Elena. You disappeared. My name is Ems Voss. Evidence you never showed me. This is the final offer. Sign it, or we go public. You think this is revenge? I think this is business. Why come back now? Because I'm done hiding. The door closed. Across town, Elena stared out the car window. One old photo. Then she deleted it. No more looking back. But the war was just beginning. The war began quietly, the way Alex Harrington preferred his battles. Surgical, silent, devastating. Within 48 hours of Elena's departure from his office, Apex launched the first strike. A whisper campaign in the right VC circles. Rumors that Nexus's flagship AI platform had stability issues. That early beta testers were jumping ship. Nothing traceable, just enough doubt to slow Nexus's Series D funding round. 2 major investors pulled back. Elena's stock dipped 8% overnight. She didn't flinch publicly. Instead, Nexus announced a surprise partnership with a European telecom giant, securing exclusive rights to deploy their edge AI tech across 200 million subscribers. The deal was announced at 7 a.m. Eastern. By 7:15, Apex's PR team was scrambling. Elena had moved faster than Alex anticipated. She always had. He countered harder. Apex quietly acquired a small but critical patent portfolio that Nexus needed for their next generation release. Patents held by a shell company Alex had bought months earlier. Anticipating this exact moment, he leaked the acquisition to TechCrunch with a carefully worded quote. Apex continues to invest in foundational technologies that drive the future of innovation. Translation. We own the keys to your castle now. Elena's response came at the annual Tech Summit in San Francisco. She took the main stage in a crimson dress that turned every head. Delivered a keynote that redefined disruptive. She unveiled Nexus's new open-source framework. Free to developers. Incompatible with Apex's proprietary stack. It was a middle finger wrapped in generosity. The crowd roared. Social media exploded. Nexus Rising trended for 48 hours. Alex watched the livestream from his jet. Knuckles white on the armrest, she looked radiant. Untouchable. Every word she spoke was measured. Brilliant. Lethal. Apex is a formidable company, she said, but the future doesn't belong to the biggest, it belongs to the fastest and the most honest. Back in New York, Alex doubled down. He poached Nexus's head of engineering with a $12 million signing bonus. Elena replaced him within hours. No press release, just results. Then came the public power play. At the quarterly earnings call, Alex announced Apex was accelerating its AI division rollout, 6 months ahead of schedule. Analysts cheered. Elena's board panicked. 2 days later, a class action lawsuit landed on Apex's doorstep. Former employees, old wounds, perfect timing. Alex finally broke protocol. We need to talk, face to face. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. Rooftop at the Standard. Public enough that you won't try anything stupid. The meeting was sharp, restrained, devastating. You started this 3 years ago. Sorry doesn't erase silence. She left. Alex stayed, staring at the city. Winning felt like losing. Across the river, Elena opened the encrypted folder. Proof. The truth. Not yet, she thought. The war wasn't over. It was just getting personal. The first crack appeared in the form of hesitation. It was a Thursday, 3 weeks into the escalating war. Alex sat in a late afternoon strategy session with his inner circle. Marcus, the CFO, the head of legal. They were reviewing the latest sabotage plan. A whisper network to regulators suggesting Nexus had skirted data privacy rules in their European rollout. It was clean, deniable, devastating. Marcus slid the briefing across the table. We move on this tomorrow. It'll tie them up in audits for months. Alex stared at the document. Something felt off. Not the plan. It was flawless. The way he liked it. It was Marcus. The man's eyes kept flicking away. Fingers drumming an uneven rhythm on the armrest. Marcus, who never fidgeted. Everything all right? Alex asked, voice low. Marcus swallowed. Just making sure we're on solid ground. We always are. Marcus nodded too quickly. Of course. But the doubt seated itself. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He pulled up the original termination files from 3 years ago. The ones he'd barely looked at since that day. Fake wire transfers. Doctored emails. Elena's digital signature on every damning page. He'd trusted the chain of custody because it came from internal security. Because it fit the narrative he needed. Betrayal by the one person closest to him. He opened the metadata on the key email. The one that sealed her fate. Sent from her corporate account at 2:17 a.m. the night before the audit flagged it. Except, the timestamp on the server log showed creation at 4:03 p.m. the previous day. Edited later? He cross-checked the IP, internal network, but the edit timestamp had been scrubbed. His pulse quickened. He called his old head of cybersecurity, the one who'd retired 6 months after Elena left. The man answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Mr. Harrington? Quote, I need you to look at something. Old files. Can you remote in? Quote, a long pause. I don't work there anymore. I'm not asking as your former boss. I'm asking as someone who might have been wrong. Another silence. Then, send them. 2 hours later, the retired exec called back. The timestamps were altered. Someone with admin access overwrote the originals. The signature is real, but the body was inserted after the fact. Clean work. Too clean. Alex sat in the dark. Phone still pressed to his ear. Who had admin access back then? Quote, you did. Me. And the compliance officer. Victor Lang. Victor. Charismatic. Always smiling. The man who'd handed Alex the folder with quiet regret. I hate to bring this to you, Alex, but the numbers don't lie. Alex ended the call. His mind raced backward. Victor had been promoted twice since then. Now ran risk management for Apex's international division. Always in the room when big decisions were made. Always suggesting the safe play. Always watching Elena with that too friendly smile. The next morning, an old external audit surfaced. Leaked anonymously to a financial blog. Not the doctored one, the real one. From 3 years ago, it showed discrepancies in the same accounts. But the transfers traced to an offshore shell company. The shell's registration? Filed the week before Elena's termination. Signatory, Victor Lang. Using power of attorney from a dormant Apex subsidiary. The blog post went viral in finance circles within hours. Apex insider fraud cover-up? screamed the headline. No names yet, but the implication was clear. Alex's phone exploded. Board members, investors, reporters. He ignored them all and dialed Victor. Conference room. Now. Victor arrived smiling. As always. You wanted to see me, Alex? Quote. Alex didn't sit. He placed the printed audit on the table. The real one. Explain this. Victor's smile faltered for half a second. Long enough. Old files. Must be a mistake. No mistake. Alex's voice was steel. You framed her. Victor laughed once. Nervous. That's a serious accusation. I have the metadata. The shell company. Your name on the registration. Alex stepped closer. You used her trust in me. You knew I wouldn't ask questions. You let me destroy the one person who actually believed in what we were building. Victor's composure cracked. You were going public. Billions on the line. Someone had to take the fall. She was expendable. Alex's fist slammed the table. She was everything. Victor backed toward the door. You think this ends with me? You signed the papers. You chose. Alex didn't chase him. He let security escort Victor out. Then he sat alone in the conference room, staring at the empty chair where Elena used to sit during late-night brainstorms. Across the city, Elena's phone buzzed with the blog alert. She read it in silence. Face impassive, her team hovered, waiting for orders. Hold position, she said quietly. No statements. Not yet. Inside, something shifted. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but the first sliver of possibility that maybe, just maybe, he was starting to see. That night, Alex drove to the old loft they used to share. Now empty, owned by a trust he'd never sold. He stood outside in the rain, looking up at the dark windows. He didn't go in. He just stood there, letting the water soak through his coat. Then he pulled out his phone. One message. To her. I know. No apology. No plea. Just truth. He sent it. Her phone lit up on her nightstand. She stared at the 2 words for a long time. Then she typed back. Prove it. She hit send. The war wasn't over. But the lies were starting to bleed. The boardroom on the 52nd floor of Apex Tower was packed. Board members, legal counsel, PR crisis team, all summoned at 7 a.m. on a Monday that already felt like Judgment Day. Alex Harrington stood at the head of the table, sleeves rolled up, tie discarded. The giant screen behind him displayed the smoking gun, a forensic timeline pieced together by an independent cybersecurity firm he'd hired in secret. Every forged document, every altered timestamp, every offshore transfer traced back to Victor Lang's personal devices. The shell company, the anonymous donor who funded the class action suit against Apex. The quiet sale of stolen IP to a Nexus competitor months before Elena reappeared. All of it. Victor had fled the country the night Alex confronted him. Interpol had him in custody in Lisbon by Sunday evening. The press release went out at dawn. Apex Industries uncovers internal fraud from 3 years ago. Former executive Victor Lang charged with embezzlement and forgery. Full cooperation with authorities. The room was silent as the final slide appeared. A redacted version of the original audit. The one that cleared Elena completely. No embezzlement. No insider trading. Just a brilliant woman scapegoated to protect the company's image during a critical IPO window. Alex looked at the faces around the table. Some shocked, some ashamed, none surprised. I failed her, he said quietly. I failed all of you by not asking the right questions. That ends today. He didn't wait for responses. He walked out, coat in hand, and drove straight to Nexus headquarters in Midtown. No appointment. No entourage, just him, unarmed, unarmored. Security stopped him at the lobby. He waited. 20 minutes later, Elena's assistant appeared, wary, professional. Ms. Voss will see you. 5th floor, conference room B. The elevator ride felt eternal. When the doors opened, Elena stood at the window, back to him, arms crossed. The city stretched below like a map of everything they'd lost. She didn't turn. You came. I had to. Silence stretched. Then she spoke, voice steady but thin. The news is everywhere. Victor, the forgeries. They're saying you were deceived. That you didn't know. I didn't look. He stepped closer, stopped when she stiffened. I chose not to look. I signed the papers because it was easier than facing the possibility I was wrong about you. About us. She finally turned. Her eyes were dry, but the green was stormy. Do you know what that day felt like? Standing in front of the entire executive floor, watching you sign my termination while I waited for one question. One. Is this true? You never asked. You just erased me. Alex's throat closed. I know. You broke me, Alex. Not Victor. You. He didn't defend himself. He couldn't. I broke myself too. Every deal since then, every win, it felt hollow. Because the one person who saw me before the money, before the power, was gone, and it was my fault. She studied him. What do you want now? Forgiveness? A merger? A clean slate? Quote, none of those. I want to earn the right to ask for them. He pulled a folded document from his coat pocket. Not a contract, a letter of intent, resignation, his own. If you want Apex to burn, I'll step down. Hand over control, whatever it takes to make this right. Her breath caught. She took the paper, scanned it, then set it on the table. You think walking away fixes anything? Quote, no, but staying and pretending it never happened is worse. She looked at him, really looked. The man who once held her through panic attacks at 4 a.m. Who promised forever in the dark. The man who'd also destroyed her without a second thought. I can't forgive you yet, she said softly. Maybe not ever, but I'm tired of fighting alone. He nodded once. Then don't. They didn't embrace, didn't kiss. She simply gestured to the chairs. Sit. They talked, not about mergers or market share. About the years apart, the nights she cried herself to sleep in a cheap Palo Alto apartment. Rebuilding from nothing. The mornings he woke reaching for her and finding only cold sheets. The way Victor's smile had always felt too perfect. The way she'd kept every email, every proof, locked away, not for revenge, but because letting it go felt like letting him win. Hours passed. The sun dipped low, painting the room gold. At some point, she reached across the table, not to hold his hand, just to rest her fingers near his. Close enough to feel the warmth. I'm not the same person, she said. Neither am I. She exhaled. Good, because the oldest didn't survive. He looked at her, really looked, but maybe the newest could try. She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, one conversation at a time. No promises, no rushing. Deal. They sat in silence after that. Not uncomfortable, just present. Two people who'd once loved each other fiercely, now scarred, cautious, but still drawn by the same gravity. Outside, the city kept moving, deals closing, stocks rising, lives intersecting and breaking, but in that room, time slowed. Later, as he stood to leave, she spoke, Alex. He turned. Don't disappear again. I won't. He walked out into the hallway. The elevator doors closed. For the first time in 3 years, the weight on his chest felt lighter. Not gone, but lighter. Across the glass partition, Elena watched him go. She touched the letter of resignation he'd left behind. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in her drawer. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the door wasn't locked anymore. They stood on opposite sides of power. CEO and soon-to-be former CEO. Rival and once lover, emotionally closer than they'd been in years. The final question lingered between them. Unspoken but alive. Could love survive when both were no longer the same people? Only time, and truth, would tell.